Good evening. Welcome to the November 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and is also being held via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24th, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation. So we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you here with us in person tonight, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here and with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with our recording equipment. Tonight, we also have 2 board members absent, and board member Helen Burgess is participating remotely. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. These comments can be addressed to the board secretary, Candace, and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall. With that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. And now on to adjournments.
I'm stepping in for Keith tonight, so I'm going to start with adjournments on our agenda. The first is case number 8, application of 35 Montauk Highway Property LLC, and this application will be adjourned to December 1st, 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
The next is case number 10, application of Ivan Paskov. This application will be adjourned to November 17th, 2022.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
On the decision aspect of the agenda, the decision of Gary Podhazer will be adjourned to November 17th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. The next one is the decision of East Quogue Realty, Inc., which will be adjourned to December 15th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then the decision of Robert Alenowitz will be adjourned to November 17th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, back to the start of the agenda.
Okay, so on our new applications, the first is Francis E. Mulvey Jr., 7 Percy Avenue, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-354-4-109. Applicant requests the following relief from Town Code 33011, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a proposed 2-lot subdivision. 1, for Lot 1, a proposed lot area of 27,000 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and 2, for Lot 2, a proposed lot area of 27,000 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and any other relief necessary.
What is jurisdiction?
Right.
Good evening.
Good evening. The applicant, Robert Marcinsic, O'Shea Marcinsic and Bruin, 250 North Sea Road, Southampton. The subject property is located at 7 Percy Street in West Hampton, approximately 280 feet north of the intersection of Percy Avenue and Montauk Highway. It's improved with a single-family dwelling in the northern portion of the property. It is comprised of 54,000 square feet and is located in an R40 zoning district. The applicant proposes to basically split this property in half to create 2 lots, each comprised of 27,000 square feet. The purpose of the variance is not based upon a desire to build a spec house or to make any money out of it, but rather to provide a building lot for the applicant's child. The applicant's son lives on the subject property in the house that's there, and the applicant wants to create an additional lot to allow his daughter to build the house on right next door and live there. The applicant and his family are lifelong residents of West Hampton, and they want to continue to reside there, and this is a means by which the daughter can have a house and continue to live in West Hampton. The area excuse me, is comprised of residentially developed parcels, many of which were part of an old file map overlay district, including the subject parcel. There are many non-conforming lots in the area, and as a result, we submit that the proposed variance will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. If this variance were approved and the property is split into 2 lots, each lot will still be larger than many of the other lots in the neighborhood. We have provided as Exhibit A, a list of 111 properties in the area. Of the 111 properties, only 25 are conforming, which equates to 22.5%, and of those same 111 properties, there are 34 which are either conforming or larger in area than the proposed 27,000 square foot lot that we're proposing, which again, that's 30.6% of the lots. We've also provided in Exhibit B basically a tax map which shows the subject parcel in orange as well as the 111 lots that surround that in yellow. We basically submit that the addition of that one non-conforming building lot will not substantially change the physical surroundings or character of the neighborhood. We cannot create 2 lots without this variance, obviously. Most of the adjacent lots are too small to transfer property. There is only 1 lot that is located to the northwest of the subject property that has 1.5 acres, which is located at 8 East Ridge Court. However, due to the configuration of that lot and the present development on that lot, there's no way that any land could be transferred. We submitted an aerial photograph of that lot in relation to the subject lot. That's part of Exhibit C. And additionally, in an effort to comply with zoning code 33167I, having to do with exhausting all avenues to try and acquire TDRs or Pine Barren credits, we contacted the town, and Dave Wilcox advised me that TDRs and Pine Barren credits are only available from the town in connection with affordable housing. And as I mentioned to you, this lot is not being created for affordable housing, but rather for the applicant's daughter. We've also reached out to, I guess, some of the other people that have Pine Barren credits, and they generally run somewhere between 100 to 100,000, 120,000 per credit. The calculation that we have is that the applicant needs 0.65 of a credit in an R40 zoning district. So you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of between $65,000 to $7,800,000 based upon that he would need. However, since the applicant is located in a groundwater management zone requiring 40,000 square feet, when he goes to the health department to get approval, it's in all likelihood the health department is going to require him to get pine barren credits to meet the sanitary flow. So we realize that that's something that we're going to have to do in connection with this application, is to acquire, essentially 26,000 feet, which is what we're short in order to, if this board were to approve the subdivision. We would also submit that the area variance is a 32.5% deviation from the standard and should not be considered substantial in determining it. Whether or not it's substantial, you should not look at not only the numerical deviation from the standard, but rather should consider the impact that that deviation will have on the community. And as I had previously indicated, when you look at Exhibit A, and you see the lot sizes in the neighborhood, the two lots that we are proposing to create would be large lots, actually as large, if not larger, than many of the lots in the neighborhood. So viewed in this manner, we submit that the variance should not be considered substantial. We further submit that the variance will not result in any negative environmental impacts or be a detriment to any of the nearby properties, will not impair adequate supply of light or air to the adjacent properties. The topography of the subject property is relatively flat, so it should not produce any significant stormwater runoff on the adjacent properties, nor onto the town road. Will not create or increase the hazard of fire or any other damages to adjacent properties or diminish property values in the area, nor will the creation of one lot increase traffic congestion. And there will be no physical impacts to the neighborhood, nor any environmental impacts, because it is believed that in connection with this application that the Suffolk County Health Department will make the existing sanitary system as well as any sanitary system for the proposed lot meet current health department standards in that regard. So it'll actually be an improvement of the environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And lastly, I also submitted as Exhibit D, there are 9 letters in support of this application from area residents. Last thing, I guess, if the board has any questions for myself or the applicant who is here in the audience, we will try and address them.
I guess my only question was, have you heard from any of the adjacent property owner neighbors? Maybe that's amongst the letters that you submitted?
I've spoken to one other one who is Mr. Seidel, Herbert Seidel, who basically told me that he would think about it and, perhaps give us a letter by, quote unquote, the end of the week. But he wasn't available really, at that time to do anything further. He did not, let me just say, he didn't object, but he didn't necessarily voice his strong support either. He said he'd think about it in substance.
Okay. So this is a subdivision application, which, or say an application for variance relief in connection with a subdivision
Correct.
application. So essentially, this is an application that is split in two. That is, we hear the variance application, and then the actual subdivision application is heard by the planning board.
Correct.
But the planning board, different people handle it different ways. That as applicants, sometimes they'll go to the planning board first, and the planning board sends them here. Sometimes we'll get the application first. It varies a little bit. I think probably more often than not, they go to the planning board first. But in any case, where are things with the planning board?
We haven't submitted an application.
Haven't submitted an application. Okay, so it's stuff.
No, it's nowhere.
Nowhere with them. But you're
blunt.
here to us first.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
I defer to you.
Well, luckily we have Anthony here, who can give us his perspective on all of this.
We always recommend that they just do a pre-application with the planning board first, only because the pre-application, then the report serves as the ZBA referral report. So
Right.
in this particular case, it's a 2-lot subdivision. I think we'll just take the referral, put it on the planning board agenda, and provide comments. I don't know at this stage of the game if we need to go through the whole pre-application process for
Okay.
a 2-lot subdivision. So we'll get the referral, we'll provide comments at in the near future.
Pretty simple, yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. We're going to make the same comments we usually do
Yeah.
on something like this.
Do we have any vehicle, and I'm asking council, and there's no vehicle for us to say, oh, that's great, we're glad you're gonna do it for family, and preclude a spec house? We don't. So you're presenting that as the intention.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe you. However, there's really no way to.
To
once we-
condition approval
To
on-
condition an approval on that, is there?
I don't think so. I think legally that would be problematic. I'll put it that
It wouldn't
way.
be appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, either you're going to allow the density or you're not.
Correct.
It's not really.
Okay. Well, I mean, I grew up there, I used to go to Gino's and Casabasso, and I know the Cozines, who actually were at that farm stand for years, so I know that area really well. I had my first
now the
kiss
Carson-
about a half a block away from
The one in the corner there?
More than we need to know.
Okay, sorry. Too much information. But I don't have a problem with this request.
Yeah, yeah, and from my perspective, the other part of this is taking a look at the subdivision application isn't before us, it's to be decided by the planning board, but I want to see the information that you've provided, Rob, about the size of adjacent lots and lots in the vicinity, to make sure that what we're essentially creating through this variance and then a subdivision, if both are granted, is consistent with what's in the neighborhood.
I went and took a look at it, at the property
Yeah.
yesterday, and I think that given the size of the lot as it stands right now, dividing it in two would not be a major impact in terms of consistency within the rest of the community. My only concern is that you just said that there's no grading issues. However, this property right here, from my recollection of what I saw, this property right here seems to be at a bit of a lower grade, and I'm wondering, and this is a property on East Ridge Court, I don't know what the address is, whether or not any attempts were made to speak to those people in order to obtain.
Well, they got notice, I mean,
Correct.
is that-
But also, I would be interested to know about the grading from the subject lot to that lot to see whether there's any issues that would need to be
well,
addressed.
if I just could comment on that, in connection with the subdivision, and Anthony could probably, back me up, there was an engineering process that the lot would undergo, and if there were any issues.
Certainly, but we don't have the benefit of that today because
Okay.
you chose to file with us first.
Okay.
So, I mean, in terms of, we do have to take into consideration impact on the surrounding community, and I think impacting on a neighboring lot would be something that we would like to know about.
So are you suggesting that we hold off, moving this forward until we get the referral from the planning?
Well, we want
We
that
always
anyway.
do,
Yeah.
We
All
want
right,
that
so that's
anyway.
what you're saying?
Yes, and yes.
But I think what John is mentioning is, we want to make sure as well that, through the process, properties have to maintain water on their lots, within reason, absent a severe
Which is in a 24-hour.
weather event. So the engineering department is going to, when they have, if everything gets approved and they reach the point where they have a proposed residence and accessory, whatever accessory structures there are, there's going to have to be a plan dealing with runoff.
Runoff, absolutely.
And that's going to have to be approved by the engineering department.
Right, that was my
Yeah.
point, basically.
So I mean, that's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, we're at the beginning of the process. We don't have a proposed, well, maybe you do. Maybe you have a proposed dwelling.
No, not yet, no,
Yeah,
we're not.
okay, I wouldn't think you would. But that's, that's going to be something that will be moving forward, something that's going to have to be addressed. But as far as we're concerned, we want, we're not granting, each property has to maintain water on the premises, and that is, part of anything that's approved by this board, that and all the other requirements in terms of building and zoning have to be complied with. So unless it turns out that the applicant, or after the subdivision is done, they need variance relief for the proposed structure.
It's possible.
And then-
Well-
and if that's the case, then we'll see you.
We'll see
you
you then.
Yeah.
That's down the road.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other questions or members of the board? Is there anyone here in the audience this evening in connection, who would like to be heard in connection with, this evening, in connection with the application of Mulvey? This is for property located at 7 Percy Avenue in West Hampton. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Mulvey for property located at 7 Percy Avenue in West Hampton? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No one on Zoom.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, with that, unless there are any other questions, we're not going to be rendering a decision until we have the planning board referral report. But we do have to, pick a date. So,
What do you say?
What's reasonable?
what,
These days?
60 days?
Maybe 30 days at least.
at least.
Okay.
Okay, so, let me see.
Should we go to
November.
12:1?
So
I
that's,
think so.
30 you need 30 days to submit it to us, we then need time to consider it, so.
So I know you have, I don't know.
You wanna
the meeting-
12:15 be a good date?
Just for decision.
Or, are we going to adjourn, or are we going to decide?
Adjourn.
No, I think we're gonna close except for written subs.
Okay.
So we're gonna close, but except for the referral report and
I can
anything
have
else.
written comments to you for your meeting on 12/1,
Un-
based on the agendas. that we have.
Unless board members would prefer that they come back.
I don't need them to come back.
Okay,
No.
Okay.
okay, all right. So it sounds to me like if it's gonna be 12:15 for, 12:15 for decision, then we would want to have written subs by 12/2, the day after the 12/1 meeting.
Okay.
And, but I'm not leading the application, so John will be making the motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to close this hearing on this application and to set a date for written submissions of 12/2 and a decision on 12/15.
So we close except for written
Second.
submissions. 12/2 is the deadline for written submissions, 12/15 for decision. Okay,
Second.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
I couldn't hear you.
Do you vote aye?
I do.
Okay, all right. Chair votes aye, thanks so much, Rob.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, number 2 on the agenda is Richard Tamarian and Caroline Ellen at 213 Maple Lane in Bridgehampton, tax map number 900-69-4-2. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed front covered porch and attached garage addition to an existing dwelling on a non-conforming lot. 1, Town Code Section 330-115C, continuance for a principal front yard setback from the existing 34.7 feet to the proposed 28.7 feet, and Town Code Section 330-115D, continuance for total side yards setback from the permitted 28.005 feet to the proposed 25 feet, and a minimum side yard from the permitted 11.22 feet to the proposed 10 feet, and any other relief necessary.
Board's jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsigan Bruin, on behalf of the applicants. I believe our applicants may be on Zoom. So if they want to speak, they may raise their hand. As the notice indicated, this is property located on the south side of Maple Lane in Bridgehampton, approximately 70 feet east of Chester Avenue. We're in the R20 zoning district. The parcel is 10,506 square feet. It's been in single and separate ownership since prior to 1957. The parcel is also a narrow lot and has an existing dwelling, two-story dwelling with a rear deck, swimming pool, and pool house. I believe we've submitted some photographs in your file. This here is a copy of the front portion of that dwelling. I think we also submitted aerial photographs of the neighborhood as well as the plans in the survey. As the notice indicated, we're asking for what I consider 3 minor variances. related to adding a enclosed porch and garage to the front portion of the dwelling. And you can see the architecture styles incompatible with what's proposed. To do such, however, requires the parcels eligible as a single and separate lot to the 3/10, 4/10 relief, the side yard 4/10 relief. And as such, the garage and front porch addition would require a 1.22-foot variance to the minimum side yard of 10 feet. It would also require a 3.05 variance from the total side yard of 28.05 to the proposed 25 feet. Both of those are less than 25%, and under your code would be considered a minor variance. The addition of the porch also requires a front yard variance of 6 feet, which is currently non-conforming at 34 feet, and it would be reduced to 28.7 feet. We submitted photographs of the character of the neighborhood. There are several parcels that have equal to or lesser side yard setbacks and/or total side yard setbacks in similar shaped lots. The property immediately to our east is actually a flag parcel to an oversized parcel that is to the south that actually does not use that flag as access. It's grass, but it provides separation to the house to the east. And then the house to the east, the first thing you encounter is their driveway before you get to that house. But that house has a similarly situated setback for their house as what we're proposing. As I indicated, the architecture is consistent. The porch doesn't create any additional habitable space other than enclosed porch area, which would be for the owners to enjoy and relax from protection of the elements. The garage is obvious to store their automobile. It complies with pyramid. There are no other additional variants needed to those setbacks, and that's our request. I believe you received a letter from the neighbor immediately to the west, Francine Lynch. If you didn't, I have a copy of that for the file. You did?
It might be in our submittals.
Oh, it is?
Well, that came in on October 19th, so our submission was made in May.
Okay.
So.
Should be here.
It's actually dated the 19th, but it came in the other day.
Yeah,
I just got it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay.
This is a type 2 action. There's no other impacts to the environment or otherwise, and we submit that the board should consider granting this application.
Minimal relief, minimal setback relief.
It appears.
I actually went to the site,
Yeah.
and it's heavily vegetated, so it's really, you can't even see it from the road, really.
Yeah.
It's minimal relief, and it's, got to be non-intrusive, for sure.
Other than that, I didn't really have any other questions about the application. Any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard in person this evening in connection with the application of Tamarian and Ellen? This is for property located at 213 Maple Lane in Bridgehampton. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Tamarian and Ellen for property located at 213 Maple Lane in Bridgehampton? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands. Okay.
Okay, so
Susan, it's yours.
This is mine, so I'm going to propose that we close the public hearing and we leave it open for written submissions by November 18th with a decision on December 1st.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much, Wayne.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda is 42 Cold Spring Point LLC, at 42 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe, tax map number 900-155-1-68. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-84D pyramid height for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 7,938.4 cubic feet for a proposed two-story, one-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
What is jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman?
Good evening. How are you, John?
Good evening, John Bennett for the applicant, 212 Windmill Lane, Southampton, New York, Bennett. What I'd like to do is lay out some of the, just the existing conditions, and then talk about some of the proposal. So, this property is the last house on the eastern end of the bay side of that development down there, which is an older sort of waterfront development. I think you have aerials. I'm just trying to make sure that you have.
We do.
You do. Thank
This
you.
one.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
But I have a couple other copies if you want. Just to take copies of
We have this as well.
So, I've done a couple things, just in terms of getting a sense of where we are. The subject property is, so again, it's the last house on the southeasterly portion of this community, which, as you know, fronts on the Conic, just in terms of just general location. If you were to look east from here, you'd see, on a rise, you'd see the Savannah Golf Course. So that's important because the trustees own the property to the east. It's essentially open space. So what I did is I blew up the aerial.
Thank you.
And there's a couple of things that become prominent because of what you'll see. What you'll see again. What you'll see again is the fact that the property to the east is open. So to the extent that pyramid regulations are for light and air, there's absolutely no effect whatsoever from any pyramid encroachment to the east because it's open space, it's owned by the trustees. And I think it's fair to assume that it's never going to be developed by any sort of improvements, let alone any sort of residential improvements. So I think that's pretty much, at the risk of being presumptuous, that should seal the deal in terms of how it relates to relief on the east side for the pyramid law. I mean, I'll explain a little bit more, and again, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think that's very, very, very compelling. On the west side, you have a house, but look at the way the two houses line up. The applicant's house is somewhat, not fully, but quite a bit proud of the house to the west. And as you can see, if you look at the Conservation Board permit, there's a Conservation Board permit for this house. Because of the limit, and because of the fact that this lot is so significantly constrained by wetlands, we've essentially left the house in the footprint, the new house in the footprint of the existing house, because we're jammed in by wetlands all around. So what I did, it's hard to see, so just in terms of being able to see it on the survey, you do have a survey in front of you. Underneath, it's hard to see, so the existing house is ghosted out, so to speak, underneath the proposed house, and I underlined it. I took a highlighter, so you can see it. It's hard. It's really hard to see on the survey. I had to take not only my older guys' reading glasses, but my magnifying glass.
This is it, John.
Yeah, oh, you see it, okay, great. So the nice thing about that is that, again, the house is not going to move to the north. So really, in terms of light and air, even with this request for an encroachment into the pyramid, there's quite a bit of light and air to the house to the west, in the northerly part of it. It's not as if it's, we're cheek to jowl right up on top of one another in a north-south fashion. So I think that's something that the board has often taken into account. I mean, the ideal situation is, of course, you know, one house is here and the other house is back here.
Yeah.
But here, at least half of the existing house to the west is not impacted. So,
Yeah.
so that's something that the board has usually taken into consideration. The other thing, and maybe it's best shown on this, forgive me, did I bring them out? I have, oh, the other thing is on this cross-section, which is very helpful. I don't know, I'm not sure I have these out. It's a cross-section of the house, and there's a couple of things that are telling. The first thing, we're in a flood zone. It's located in the AE6, but it's south of the Limwood line. And as Anthony will tell you, what that does is essentially take my A zone, and since I'm south of the Limwood line, make it a V zone. Because instead of the first AE6, instead of the first floor having to be at base floodplain elevation 6 plus 2 feet of freeboard, first floor, my lowest horizontal structural member has to be at base flood plus 2, when you're south of the limit of moderate wave action. So that's a constraint. But we haven't been piggish, because we're still 4 feet below the height we could achieve. And why did we do that? I said, you're going to have to make some sacrifices here, because you're going to go in, you're going to ask for some pyramid relief, so I need to be able to say, as much as you can, as much as it hurts you, I need to be able to say we're keeping it below the maximum height. So we've achieved 4 feet below the maximum height. Now, the interesting thing is that the client has owned this property for 20 years. She's very, very concerned about making sure that there's compliance with FEMA, because she's experienced flooding. So the fact that we have the opportunity to rebuild, to reconstruct a new home there and make it FEMA compliant is very good. But one of the things I was talking to somebody today is what happens in a lot of these instances in terms of neighborhood impact on neighbors, in terms of, for example, trying to recreate structures in historic purposes, in historic areas. These FEMA requirements really start having an impact on your ability to comply with other elements of the law, which is why we're here. And we're here for this FEMA relief. So, I'm sorry, pyramid relief. Everything else complies. We have so again, the overall height of the home has been limited to almost 4 feet lower than permitted. Show this on the cross section. We have to be.
The allowable is 42 feet?
The maximum is 42 feet.
Right, and the elevation is 36 feet?
36.
Okay, so that's 6 feet.
Something tells me we're.
Okay.
Well, my associate, who's very sharp, told me we're
I'm just
4
picking
feet
that up.
lower.
Did
Maybe it's
anybody else
6
see
feet.
that?
Maybe it's only 6 feet. Maybe we're 6 feet lower. In any event, we're substantially lower than the max. Most of the time, you see people come in here trying to max stuff out, but you can't do that when you're here with on bended knee asking for some pyramid relief. There are some other variances in the area, just for your purposes
I
of.
know you submitted a few.
Yeah, we also, it was a matter of HUDAK, Hudak, what would that be? HUDAK, and matter of Belfi. I don't know, we submitted one, but there are a couple more that I wanted to submit, one of which was for about 4,000, the other one was about 5,500. They were both north side of Cold Spring Point, and one was across the street 2 lots to the west. Let me make sure I have those for you just for the record. So the board has understood the challenges that people come into. It's a narrow lot, and it's a very constrained lot.
It's a very constrained lot. Basically, half of the lot can't be disturbed.
Yes, that's true.
About half the lot, that's what it appears to be, at least, maybe a little bit more than that, but basically that's what it appears to be.
And
then you have the issues with flooding and FEMA. So you have both going on.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, and the Conservation Board recognized that, because what they did do is they essentially let us leave the house in the existing footprint, which just speaks to the other constraints that's sort of wrapped by wetlands, because they always try to push you back a little bit. You need one more. Okay. All right, so those are important. So it's burdened by wetlands on two frontages, which necessitate, the other thing, that required us shifting the proposed house. You'll notice that the pyramid relief is not, ideally what you do is you try to center it. But the board wanted us to shift it further away from the wetlands, the
Yep.
conservation board.
Yep.
I mean, again, it's one of these things that.
No, you're boxed in by different agencies and different rules that.
When you look at this, you're like,
If it were the constraints,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have these limitations. You would be freer. in
So
terms
again,
of
when,
what you
when
do.
I look at this, I always like to make it as simple as possible, but sometimes I can't. You know, you say
Yeah.
divvy the pyramid relief up so that you're spreading
Yeah.
the harm, so to speak,
Yeah.
which I don't think there isn't in this case, but I couldn't do it because the wetlands shift us over to the one side.
Right.
So that's that.
Yeah.
So it's more on the westerly side.
I looked at it, I said, oh, maybe it's more on the easterly side, which would be
Right.
preferable.
Right.
But I'm pushed over there.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then in terms of, you know, I keep an ear open as to the type, the type of relief that the board grants. And some of it's a numbers thing. Oh, that's a lot of cubic feet relief and everything, but I don't know if anybody gets, I guess I'm old school, I just look at the books, I don't look at there are 4 lawyers in the office, and sometimes I have a contest as to who can find it first. But Terry Rice has written commentaries on the New York McKinney's town law for years, and he's very, very good. And I reached out to him in this instance because 7,900 square feet of cubic feet relief is a good amount of relief, but as he says, quoting cases, and he collects them, it's on page 100, starting on page 141 of the McKinney's sections 267A, 267B for the New York's town law. Percentage derivation taken alone is not an adequate indication of substantiality. You must evaluate the totality of the relevant circumstances in determining whether or not the variance is substantial. So I'm being a little bit flip, I hope not too much. I think really what we're talking about, since to the east we don't really have any neighbor other than some open space, really the only concern would be on the west, which is why I'm trying to demonstrate to you that the footprint of this house is proud by half of the property to the west. So I don't think you have the light and air concern that you would have if they were just aligned perfectly. And there's really no place else for me to go. I don't think it's again, we're not maximizing under the zoning code the height or the ceiling heights.
Yeah, and this is a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah, it's not a bit, it's
This
small.
is not a gigantic
What is it? It's
thing
yeah,
that you're looking to propose. It's a
the
modest
property-
house on a severely constrained lot.
2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms.
Can I ask you, how much do you think is relevant to the FEMA requirements? How much of the pyramid relief? If you had it, it's 7,000 plus, how much of it do you think would be? Maybe
The
you don't.
lion's share of it.
The lion's
Yeah,
share.
yeah, it really
All
is. It's
right, so-
really FEMA driven.
All right, so
Yeah.
it's like, if you didn't have the FEMA relief, it would be 2,000,
Right,
right? But
right.
Yeah,
okay.
it's the,
Exactly.
I mean,
And-
hopefully that's a satisfactory answer. It's
Yeah.
really the lion's share of it. It really kicks it up.
Well,
And again, particularly when it's an AE6 gets turned into a VE6 when you're south of the Lima line. So if you think about it, if you're in regular AE zone, say it's AE6, my first floor has to be at 6. Now, my lowest horizontal structural member has to be 6, which means the floor joist, be it wooden or steel, and then the floor package above that. So you lose there as well. And then we tried to keep it either 4 or 6. I'm sorry, I'm scratching my
So-
it's like
Your
6.
submission is 5 feet 10 inches.
5 feet 10 inches. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I was writing furiously because I was
in
late,
there.
and I'm sure Bailey said the right thing to me, and I wrote down 4.
Almost.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
yeah.
I'll
But
Yeah.
typical one family is, without a flood zone would be 32 feet, so you're
Yes.
talking about 4 feet within that pyramid of house. So
Right,
that
right,
helps.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's.
And the height of the ceiling and the floors is 9 feet, I see, or something
Yes,
like
yes,
that?
which
So it's
is
not like you're
typical. No.
doing 12-foot cathedral ceilings and the,
Right.
I mean, I'm dating myself. We all probably grew up in, I'll speak for myself, in houses with 8-foot ceilings, but 9 seems to be the minimum.
Yeah.
Now, it's just
Yeah.
more
7'6".
contemporary living. 7'6"? That's what your house was?
We were poor.
my son is 6'7", so
Oh,
you
my
can
God,
only imagine.
you were lucky. I grew up in a hole in the ground. That's
Yeah.
Monty Python.
So-
Well, whatever.
So a few things just from my perspective, kind of generally about this application and the pyramid relief. So if we were in a situation where there was no constraints on the property, if it was no issue with FEMA and no issue with wetlands, I think that if we had a pyramid application for, 2,500 cubic feet or less, we would be okay with it. If it was
Right.
more than that, we would be scrutinizing it.
Right.
When we add in FEMA, when we add in the wetlands constraints, I think those are all, as John said, considerations for being more willing to grant a larger amount of pyramid relief, because basically other boards and other requirements are forcing the applicant to request this additional relief, including preserving the house from flooding issues, which is a priority of the town. So to me, all things considered, we'll see if there are any neighbors here that are going to appear, or attorneys or neighbors in opposition. But to me, also, I mean, we have had applications for relief from, in situations with severe constraints, for a lot more cubic feet of pyramid relief than what's proposed here. I mean, it's 8,000. It's not a small amount. Under any circumstances, it's not a small amount. But a lot of it is driven by the limitations of the property, and we're not talking about an extravagant structure here at all. It is to me modest. So I think all those things considered, I believe it's a reasonable application when we weigh, and also the other factor here is that to the east there isn't anyone impacted.
I just want to add, I'm sorry,
Sure,
the neighbor across the street, which, could have, it's going to have an effect on the view shed there, even though I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's an appropriate response to an application for a variance based upon the recent Second Department case, but nevertheless, the neighbor to the north has no objection.
Has there been any conversation with the neighbor to the west?
No.
So we're going to find out shortly whether they are here or if someone here on their behalf.
Let's find out.
Anthony, do you have any comments about it? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, Helen, you had a question?
No,
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
I just wanted to say that I do think the number is significant. I'm just speaking for myself, and, you try to put a square peg into a triangle hole, and this is what you get, and this is what they want. This is what they're asking for. I think it's significant. So I'm not tremendously excited about it, but I'm just one voice.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who's here this evening in connection with this application, which is the application of 42 Cold Spring Point LLC for property located at 42 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe, who would like to be heard? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is the application of 42 Cold Spring Point LLC for property located at 42 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom? Okay. If not, are we waiting for anything, Candace, on this one?
You've got a wetland, you have a wetlands permit, right?
I think you did.
Need planning commission? It's on the water?
Oh,
Because,
Yeah,
even
it's
if
within-
500 feet, you have to refer to the planning commission.
Okay,
that's right, yeah.
So,
okay.
yes.
I don't want to do that because it's a void action, believe it or not.
Well,
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's what the case law says. If it was supposed to be a referral and there wasn't, the statute of limitations doesn't even start. So please, make sure that it's been referred properly.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we close the application of 42 Cold Spring Point LLC this evening, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be end of business on November 18th, presuming that we have everything in, and we will have a decision ready on our December 1st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much, John. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
12-1.
Okay, we're
Thank you very much. It's very nice to meet you.
We're on the agenda number 4, Tomas Wosachowski and Awana Wosachowski at 6 Victoria Road, Hampton Bays, tax map number 900-230-2-25.3. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for a proposed swimming pool, Section 330-34, an accessory side yard setback of 25.5 feet where 60 feet is required, and 2, for a proposed two-story dwelling, small I, Section 330-34 Business District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for a minimum principal minimum side yard setback of 18.5 feet where 50 feet is required, and a principal total side yard setback of 42 feet where 100 feet is required, and 2 small I, Section 330-94 Schedule off-street parking space requirements for residential uses to allow 3 additional parking spaces to be located in the required front yard on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board's jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Always good to see you. Carl Benacosta for the applicant, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, 11976. 6 Victoria is a 17,492 square foot lot existing in a motel zone. This
Sorry,
is some
hold on a
additional
second.
handouts.
Yeah, I know,
Where's-
thank you.
Where's Helen's,
Basket.
It's over there. I
basket?
have it, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
so we have to
Okay,
send the
so
originals.
send it
I
back.
have it.
Oh, you have it, okay.
You
We-
got
we
it,
didn't
never
know.
mind.
You got one for her?
We
All
need,
right.
we need one more over here.
Okay.
Mike.
Carl, sorry,
You got
you
plenty.
can, we'll
You
kind of-
threw us for a
You got
loop.
one.
Go ahead.
And then you need.
Sure.
Okay.
So 6 Victoria is
You're gonna
a
be sorry that I'm at the end.
17,492 square foot lot in a motel zone. The minimum lot size under zoning in the motel zone is 40,000 square feet. One-family dwellings are permitted use. Should also note that the minimum lot width is 150 feet, and the lot width here is 100 feet. Just going into the history of this parcel, some of you may remember, as there was relief granted somewhat recently, this was originally Lot 12 on the subdivision map of Victoria Estates, which was filed on October 8th of 1953. Subsequent to the filing of that map and later upzoning, it merged with the lot to the north, Lot 11, becoming one parcel known as 8 Victoria Road. Relief was requested in 2017 to this board to unmerge the 2 properties. In other words, re-subdividing them into the 2 original lots. And on July 20th of 2017, this board issued variance number D017110, which authorized the re-subdivision of the 2 lots under map number 12134. So that 11 and 12 are again separate lots, and recreating 6 Victoria, the subject parcel. Pursuant to that variance, the lot created, again, is a less than 45% of what is permitted, or what is of the minimum lot size under zoning, and about 66% of the minimum lot width under zoning. As a result, it's exceptionally burdened lot. The variance did not call for any specific relief with respect to dimensional regulations other than lot coverage, which is not implicated today. So the relief we are requesting is as follows. 23.5 feet, we're asking that the side yard be reduced to 23.5 feet, and that's the north side yard, and the south side yard to 18.5 feet when 50 is required. Under R40, which is the predominant zoning in the neighborhood, the required minimum side yard would be 20. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, we're really only asking for 1.5 feet of side yard relief on the south side. And if you see in the neighborhood map I passed out, you'll see that this lot sits just south of that zone split, and that the rest of the lots essentially exists as an R40 neighborhood. The total side yard of 42 feet, we are requesting when 100 is required as the minimum under the motel zone. Again, under R40, the total side yard is 60, so far less than it would be under the motel zone. The front principal structure, we're asking for 42 feet when 60 is required. That is the same both in motel and R40. And for the rear yard accessory, there's a pool and a shed. We're asking for 25.5 feet for the pool, 10 for the shed. When 50 is required under the motel zone, under R40, that would be 20 feet, whereby the pool would be conforming. Is this an undesirable change in the neighborhood? For the following reasons, I would submit it is not. The proposal is largely conforming with R40 setbacks, as we said. The same being the predominant zoning in the neighborhood, as you can see from the aerial I provided this board. Other lots exist with similar conditions. This board granted relief to property just to the south, providing for rear yard setbacks to be 20 feet and side yard to be 25 feet for a pool. That's variance number 8599. That was issued on July 10th of 1989. 14 Victoria, which is up to the north, has a principal residence lawfully existing 29 feet from the front yard. Again, we're only asking for a 40-foot setback. 2 Victoria, which is just on the just to the south, has a principal residence of 16 feet from the side yard. And again, we are only asking for, at its minimum, 18.5 feet from the side yard. 227 East Montauk Highway, which is the corner of Victoria and Montauk Highway. If you look on the neighborhood map, it's the lot all the way to the bottom right on Victoria. It was issued a variance number 7647 in March of 1986. The side yard relief was down to 18, which is greater relief than we're asking for. Front yard to 38 feet, and it allowed for a shed 10 feet from the north property line, which is exactly the relief we're asking for that shed. Every home on Victoria within the motel district, so south of that red line, has either a non-conforming structure that exists as a pre-existing non-conforming structure or was granted dimensional variance relief by this board. And that just shows you that the zoning is a little off when it comes to this neighborhood, and that it hasn't evolved in practice as it was set forth in zoning. Going through the other factors, the variances are absolutely needed to construct the proposed home. There's no feasible alternative, again, in large part due to the burdens on this lot imposed by the nature of the neighborhood, imposed by the split zoning of the neighborhood, and largely created by the variance relief that this board issued back in 2017. It will not, although when compared to the motel zone setbacks and dimensional regulations, it may seem substantial when looking at the totality of the circumstances and the fact that this has evolved as an R40 neighborhood. It's easy to see that these are actually reasonable requests and in many ways compliant with R40 setbacks. And will this have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood? It is completely in line with the physical and environmental conditions of the existing neighborhood. We received comments last week from the building department.
And I was going to ask about them, so
Sure.
yeah, feel free to
So I will
give
touch
your
on them.
response.
We haven't had time to update the plans, again, we just received them this week, but we will update the pyramid calculations in line with the building department suggestions. Again, they specifically note that pyramid relief will not be required either way, so we can amend the plans. And we can remove the objected to parking spaces from the final proposal.
Okay.
One? I thought it was just one.
Just one.
Oh, sorry, parking space
Right.
from the final proposal.
And then they did have the comment about fences over 4 feet in height. I don't know whether there's issues. with
I don't know of any,
fences.
but we'll make sure that they're all 4 feet. in
Yep,
height.
whatever it is, it has to be, conforming.
Sure. And I can note that on the, we'll send revised plans and we'll note that they're all to be 4 feet in height.
Yep, yep, okay. All right. It's an unusual, slightly unusual application because it's in this motel zoning district. But other than that, the fact that it's in this really kind of, at least according to what we have, a kind of split district, but motel versus R40. But separate and apart from looking at the fact that issue exists, to me, it's pretty consistent with what's in the neighborhood.
Do you know you don't have any idea of square footage sizes? I mean, 2,900 square feet is a significant house on a 0.4 of an acre, whether it's, and I don't know that the other houses look to be similar to that, but I don't know.
So the lot coverage is similar to others in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I can't say right now which ones are 2-story or which are 1-story,
Yeah,
but it is actually consistent with the homes that are there.
okay.
And you're not asking for relief for lot coverage?
No, we don't need
Right,
really lot
exactly.
coverage. Yep, just dimensional, just setbacks.
Right.
What is this property here that looks like a big field?
That's a big field.
That would be a big,
Is it,
it's a motel, yeah.
is it an agricultural field, or is it
No,
just a?
It's just a largely vacant property. There was a proposal years ago, I know, unrelated to this application, to develop some sort of hotel or on that parcel, but it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. There were septic issues, so it really didn't go anywhere. But,
Okay. There's a history, in other words, yeah.
Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
no, they've all been noticed, and we've had no objections
Okay.
that we're aware of.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who is here this evening in person who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Wojciechowski? This is for property located at 6 Victoria Road in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Wojciechowski for the property which is located at 6 Victoria Road in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands. Okay, if not, Helen, it's yours.
Okay, at this point, we can close the public hearing. Leave it open for written submissions till November 18th, with a decision on December 1st. Can you do
Second.
that, Carl?
Works for me, Helen, thank you.
Second.
You're welcome, Carl.
Okay. Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much, Carl. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, I'll be right back there.
Oh, you'll be right back, okay. I'll see you shortly.
All right, and number 5 on the agenda is Jill Simon, 2653 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, tax map number 900-88-1-22. Applicant requests relief for a proposed 2-story addition on a non-conforming lot, 1, section 330-84 pyramid height, for a total encroachment of 2,794 cubic feet on the east side of the property, 1,840 cubic feet existing plus 954 cubic feet proposed. 2, section 330-115C, continuance, a side yard setback of plus or minus 10.8 feet where 11.6 feet is existing. 3, section 330-11, residence district table of dimensional regulations, for the existing swimming pool, a side yard setback of 8.8 feet where 10 feet is required. And 4, section 330-77G, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residential districts. For AC units, a setback of 8.5 feet where 10 feet is required, and any other relief necessary.
Mr. Chairman, Kathleen Murray, I recuse myself from this application.
Okay, thank you.
Court has jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. All right, good evening.
Good evening, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Trorig, Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton, which is right along the same street as the property for the application here. We need 3 pieces of four pieces of relief for the development of this property, and development is probably a strong word. What's behind our request today is there's going to be a renovation of the house. So it's the renovation that creates the pyramid law requirement, and then the pool and the other relief comes out of the fact that there was a mistake made in a survey in 2010 where it moved the pool west, and then we found out that the east line was wrong, so when it moved back, it required the need for relief. It's demonstrated on these surveys.
And this is a pool that had a building permit and got a
And got a
certificate of
CO
compliance.
in 2010.
And then they subsequently discovered recently, I guess.
Yes,
that-
as part of this application, Marge picked it up because she compared a prior
Yeah.
survey to the 2010 survey.
Yeah.
You can see it here where a frame garage, which is pre-existing, the entire property is pre-existing, was basically on the line. This is the real line, but it moved the pool over towards the west line, so that's what happened there. As I said, we're looking to renovate the house and basically modernize it. The pyramid relief, which is, there's already an incursion into the pyramid, is what I would say insubstantial at 954 cubic feet, and it's really to add a second bathroom to the second floor. Currently, there are 3 bedrooms on the second floor that share a bathroom. The owner would like to create a master bathroom and then convert the other bathroom for access by the other 2 bedrooms. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what the application is and where we come from with the different structures. There will be, well, so where the character of the neighborhood is basically dominated by Bridgehampton High School, which, or maybe it's the whole school is in that building, so I guess all of Bridgehampton School is in that building, and it is what is to the east. This particular structure is set back pretty far from the actual school building itself. I have an aerial that I can,
It's right on the parking lot.
yeah, so it's on, right on the parking lot. And then there are a significant line of hedges.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more for the,
Yeah.
We need one for the fire.
Did you say that this frame building is a garage?
yes, that's a garage. I don't believe it's used as a garage.
Susan's the one.
Oh, okay.
Susan, that's for the fire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then we pass these around.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay.
Check those.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay.
I think it's storage for the pool, as it's used now.
Do
So
we
it's
have
done.
enough?
Do we have one more?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take
To
it.
Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we see to the east,
You have yours?
it's dominated by the school. It's right next to the parking lot. And the reason for the improvements on that side of the house is that's where the existing bathroom is. So all the plumbing and everything's there, so you don't have to shift and reconstruct the bottom floor to get the plumbing to that. So the bathrooms will be next to each other, and it makes for an easier construction project. To the south is all residential houses, so it's really a residential area, but for the school, I think that there is a small motel called the Room at the Beach across the street, which is a pretty quiet, benign use. I believe my father did that in the 80s or the 90s. He was a lawyer for...
I think I went there once, yes.
The challenge with this lot is it's pre-existing non-conforming, so it's 70 feet wide in an R20 where it requires 120 feet. So that, on top of the fact that the house is much closer to the east property line, and then the interior of the house where the bathrooms are next to each other, makes for the requirement that we'd like to expand it. And really, basically, if you look at the plan, we're squaring off the structure, and that's how that's working.
So is the majority of the pyramid intrusion on the high school?
On the high school
Parking lot
yes.
side.
Yes,
Yes.
all of it is on that side.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the east side of the structure. I've been before this board a couple of times. A couple of those were pyramid law cases, and in the scheme of things, the 954 cubic foot addition is, I'm laughing because Herb Phillips would ask me right now.
How many cords of wood?
How many cubic feet in a cord of wood?
Really?
Which I would look up every time before I came. I
Would
didn't
you
do
know
that.
the answer? I mean,
I
that would
looked
be-
it up.
Well, Herb would do it for years and years, so
Yeah,
people
so
would kind
we
of,
look it
yeah,
up.
yeah.
I mean,
Kind of
you know,
running-
some but in the scheme of things, I think
Yeah.
it's pretty small. This is a type 2 variance under SECRA, so SECRA tells us through the New York State DEC that there'll be no environmental impact, it's categorical. Self-created hardship, I'd say, you know, we want an expansion, so it's hard to say that it's not, but we do have some significant challenges, pre-existing non-conforming house, upzoning that made it pre-existing non-conforming, the current location of the house. So that creates it, so it's a yes and no, but as this board well knows, that's not a reason to deny a variance.
So just to get a verification again, so the distance on the correct survey is 11.6 from the side yard for the porch, right, by the porch?
For the house.
For the
right,
house, right.
Right, that's for the house.
And then the 8.5 below that is the air conditioning
That's
units.
the air conditioning.
And then the
units.
8.8 is the pool. So that's the corrected survey?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
corrected survey, and
Okay.
that is dated 9/22/2022.
Okay.
Which is, I think, the one I have. And I was looking for a measurement of 10.8.
I know, but that's why it got
Yeah.
very confusing,
Right.
because the old one was 10.8.
Right.
But the corrected one is
Correct one
11.6.
11.6,
Right.
okay.
So that's why I
Okay.
wanted to
And it
verify.
reduced,
Yeah.
then moving it over reduced the.
right, but you're
reduced the pyramid.
Okay, as long as all the
Yes.
measurements
We got the
are-
measurements
are-
Yeah,
correct.
the 9/22/2022 is the correct survey, and that's the one that should be based on.
There's one 10.5. I have AC offsets on 10.5, correct? Is this one here?
Yeah, amended was 9/22/2022, 10/5 AC offsets.
I think that
Oh,
was
right,
in
then, I'm
88
sorry,
one.
yes, you're right.
All right, so
Yeah.
this is the...
10.5, yeah,
okay.
10.5 is...
Okay, that's the...
Yep.
I went to the property, again, heavily vegetated. You really can't see too much. I mean, it's close to the property line, there's no question. The house is backed right up to it, but it backs up to a parking lot, and it's not infringing on anybody else's. The rest of it is very heavily vegetated all around the property, so...
And the chances are that the Bridgehampton School will
Was not gonna object.
probably going to be continue to be around for a while, although I have to
I-
tell you, when I was a kid, the Sag Harbor schools almost were eliminated, and we were almost going to be shipped to Southampton and East Hampton, and I think that there was a bond in Bridgehampton too around that time. So both schools survived, but there was a, way back when.
I don't think we have to worry about that for our
I don't
purposes
think-
today.
I don't think so. Yeah. but
Yeah, it's
I
gonna,
just-
and then obviously you have setbacks from
Yeah.
that if something were to happen in the future, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm friends with Ronnie White, who's the president of the school board.
They're not giving,
Right.
And
they're not
going
giving up
anywhere.
that school too
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, they just built a new gym and
Yeah.
and all that stuff. so.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think they're going anywhere, I just, as an
It's
anecdote,
just
just wanted to share.
anecdote, yeah, it's funny. yeah.
Only by hair did the Sag Harbor school system survive. Only by hair.
Really, that's
Oh,
so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I'm fine
And I-
with this.
Yeah.
And I graduated in the first class in the renovated Sag Harbor School. Yeah,
Boy, we're getting a lot of history.
we're getting a lot of history.
Dating yourself.
All right. we're
Yeah,
gonna-
you're dating yourself.
I thought Pearson was always pretty strong.
What, the
Yes,
building?
it's very strong. No, the school is
Oh, the
very...
school, the school itself.
Very strong.
Oh, no, the school itself is good. No, it was all about, people, property taxes, and they wanted to see if they could save money by eliminating the school.
There was a movement
Said-
years ago
yeah,
to try to
yeah.
coalesce a lot of school districts. Yeah,
Right.
they thought it was economies
And-
of scale.
And there is kind of, but anyway, we're going way off the subject.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
But it's
all
fun.
right. Any other questions from members of the board? Unless, Brian, you have a question, I think we probably don't have anyone from the audience. Is there anyone from the public who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application assignment? This is for property located at 2653 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
No one on Zoom.
No hands. Okay. All right, if not, Susan, it is yours.
Then I move that we close the public hearing with keeping it open for written submissions until November 18th, and with a decision on December 1st.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Have a good- Take care. Have a good rest of your night.
Okay, number 6 on the agenda is Sudhir Venkatash, 1571 Sag Road in Sag Harbor, tax map number 900-26-2-26. Applicant requests the following relief from provisions of the Town Code, Section 330-115C, continuance. 1, for a proposed addition to the front of the dwelling on a nonconforming lot, small I, a principal front yard setback from 84.8 feet to 83.2 feet, and 2, for a proposed porch addition to the northwest side of the dwelling. 1, a principal rear yard setback from 68 feet existing to 65.2 feet, and 2, small I, a principal minimum side yard setback from 37.3 feet existing to 36.3 feet, and 3, small I, a principal total side yard setback from 68.6 feet existing to 67.6 feet, and any other relief necessary.
What is jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman?
Good evening.
Good evening, Brian Locascio with the Adam Miller Group, 2462 Main Street, Bridgehampton, attorney for the applicant. As stated, I'm here on behalf of the applicant and owner of 1571 Sag Road, in Sag Harbor, New York. The property is located in the CR 200 zoning district and is 47,528 square feet, or 1.09 acres. Therefore, it's a non-conforming lot. It is also unique in that it's a triangle-shaped lot, only has 3 sides with a significant road frontage along Sag Road. The property is currently improved with a single-family dwelling, decks, patio, and pool. This property has a history before this board, given the nature of this lot and the existing single original house built back in 1977 was actually from the benefit of a variance, as there is no conforming envelope under the zoning. And therefore, the applicant truly has no feasible alternative to expand this house but for it to come before you. This property, given the contour and the grading, the house itself is almost invisible from Sag Road. We're at about 36 feet at the curb cut, and the property is at about 24 feet. So there's a 14-foot separation in grade from the road to the house. That's a heavily wooded area. The applicant is looking to propose an addition, 1- and 2-story addition to the house, a proposed 1-story addition and porch on the front of the house, and a proposed porch in the rear of the house. Associated with that, we need the following relief. For the front addition, we need a front yard setback of 83.2 feet, where the current existing non-conforming setback is 84.8 feet, so an increase of 1.6 foot. For the proposed porch on the northwest side of the house, a rear yard setback of 65.2, where 68 currently exists, a 2.8 foot increase. A principal side yard setback of 36.3 feet, where 37.3 feet currently exists, 1 foot increase. And a principal total side yard setback of 67.6 feet, where 68.6 currently exists, again, a 1 foot increase. So as you can see, these are all very modest or minimal increases in the nonconformity of the house. This is a family that's looking to make a little more habitable space for the children, so they can reside in this house and have a more habitable, functional space. As a component of this application, the scope of the work does include an IA septic system. It has nothing to do with this application, but it will bring an environmental impact to the neighborhood if it is approved and does go forward. As I stated, given the size and the shape of this lot, there is no practical alternative to foresee this addition other than to get relief from the board here. We did our best to design a house that stays within the footprint of the house. We don't pierce the height or pyramid, so we're not looking for any relief from that. The adjoining houses are all similarly sized and situated in their modest size homes in a wooded area. I only heard from one neighbor, Frances Mill, who lives across the street. When I directed her to which house I was pointing to, she had no objections, given the reasons I stated, the grading of the house, the wooded nature, so there was no objection there. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, this is a highly constrained lot, significantly undersized. It's currently a pre-existing non-conforming house we're looking to do a modest addition to. Total building coverage is going to be 5.65%, so by no means maxing out this lot. It's just a, modest improvement to allow a family to enjoy their house in Sag Harbor.
Minimal setback relief, absolutely minimal.
Yeah, are they replacing the house, or?
They're not replacing, but they're doing an addition. They're going to continue the roof line heading south for the two-story addition, or heading towards south. They're going to do a proposed porch in the rear. They're doing a one-story porch and entryway in the
They're
front.
doing a minor, it's a major renovation. that's
Major
gonna be-
renovation with a minor expansion.
With the minor,
Correct,
okay.
yep, correct.
Because,
Yeah, but this is one
Makes
of these
sense.
lots, like there are some areas in the town where virtually anything they do is going to require variance relief.
Across the street, it's either R20 or R40 zoning. I apologize, I don't know, but it's,
Right.
It's much densely populated up in the Mount Misery area as opposed to across the street where this is a significantly undersized lot.
Right.
I don't know if there are any lots in the immediate area that meet this CR 200 zoning, at least along Round Pond Lane, but again,
Right.
that's where we are.
yeah.
This is CR 200?
That is correct.
Yeah, and it's triangular shaped.
It's very weird shape.
And it's, got, well, it's, the vast, well, almost, the Sag Road frontage is just about the entire lot, so basically the whole thing is a front yard.
Yeah, it's
So-
really minor.
Yeah, so it makes it problematic, and so I.
Also, the placement of the original home
Yeah,
in the far corner.
which we're for the most part preserving. Obviously, we're,
Right.
Exactly.
working within the confines, but,
Right, which must have been through a variance of this.
yeah, 1977 for restored, yeah.
Yeah, so, in any case, minimal relief, so
Yep.
I'm no concerns about it.
Yeah,
Any
no
other
concerns.
questions? Okay, isn't anyone from the public in the room? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard this evening on Zoom in connection with this application? This is the application of Venkatesh for property located at 1571 Sag Road in Sag Harbor. If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
There's no one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom? Okay, thank you. All right.
One point to add, we are
yes.
currently pending before Conservation for an administrative wetlands permit for this work.
Okay,
I don't know if I need to leave this open until I have that permit. And
Yep.
if so, I would request that.
yes, and I appreciate you
Yep.
letting us know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we would definitely, I would want to have that
Just
permit.
keep it for written submissions until I get that
We'll
permit.
leave it
Yeah.
open for written submissions only.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
When would you expect that?
I mean, it's been pending before them for a while. The architect had to make some, clerical changes to the plans and the survey, nothing substantive, but I'll speak with him after and see where he's at time-wise.
Well-
I think our response to this is probably gonna say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
I understand, so we could put it on for a decision on December 1st, and if it turns out that you don't have it,
I'll just
by
submit a
then,
request.
yeah, just let.
Yeah, I
let
mean,
us
I
know
would love
and
that.
put it over.
And I'll let you know as soon as I can.
Okay.
You don't want to make it for December 15th?
It's up to you.
I mean, we can do December 15th. It's probably a little more practical. I don't
Okay.
have any
Right,
indication I'm
because
going to have.
otherwise
the
it
permit by
goes
then.
on, and
Yep.
then
We
we
have
just
to,
have
like,
to,
adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
So what will be my written submission deadline for a December 15th decision
Second.
then? December 12th?
that-
Second?
It'll be
Yeah,
December
12/2.
2nd. So we're going to close this public hearing. We're going to leave it open for written submissions until 12/2 with a decision for, planned for 12/15.
Second.
Okay?
Okay, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
I
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your
I'll
night.
actually be back up again shortly.
Oh, you'll be back, okay.
Okay.
Keep doing that, that's twice.
Well, Billy, don't call it just.
Okay.
Yeah,
Much shorter next time. I think I was the first to graduate even further running about Spears.
where's Mr.
Really?
Benincasa?
Wow. The old,
Proud Whaley alumni. My wife now teaches there.
the old Sag Harbor's high school was so
Don't this
old.
be a dream.
It was like from the there were indentations in the walls for like oil lamps.
Turn to 12 more.
Yeah, that's how old. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So make sure call it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, we're on agenda number 7, Ron Duckstein, at 60 Lynn Avenue, Hampton Bays, tax map number 900-269-29-19. Applicant requests relief from Town of Southampton Code for a proposed two-story addition, Section 330-11 Residence District table of dimensional regulations for a required minimum side yard setback of 10.6 feet where 20 feet is required, and a combined side yard setback of 30.1 feet where 45 feet is required, and Section 330-84D, pyramid height, for a proposed pyramid encroachment of 587.54 cubic feet on the south side of the property, and any other relief necessary.
Court is jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Good evening again. Good to see you all, as always. Carl Benicasso for the applicant, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, 11976. The application before you, as stated, is for 3 separate forms of dimensional relief. A little history about the property. It exists, as you know, on 60 Lynn Avenue in Hampton Bays. It is a single and separate lot in the R20 zoning district. It is conforming in both size and lot width. It is oddly shaped in that it is a triangular lot, as you can see, with essentially only 3 boundary lines. It's currently improved with a single-family home and existing lot coverage of 2,038 square feet. The proposal is putting a 2-story addition to the home, an additional lot coverage of 656 square feet, still well within permitted levels, attached to the north side of the existing structure. The addition conforms to zoning in all respects except for 3. It is 10.6 feet from the side yard with the neighbor to the north, when 20 is required as a minimum. As a result of that, the total side yard is 30 feet when 45 is required as a minimum, and we are asking for pyramid relief in the amount of 587.54 cubic feet. Is this an undesirable change in the neighborhood? It is not. It is consistent with existing neighborhood conditions. And I'll discuss a few homes in the area. 47 Woodbridge Road is less than 300 feet away from this lot, within the same R20 zoning district. And the home exists 10.1 feet from the side yard. So, actually closer to the side yard by half a foot than the improvement we are proposing. At 55 Woodbridge Road, that's on the corner of Lynn and Woodbridge, it is with a lot that's approximately 170 feet away from the subject parcel, again, the same zoning district. Front yard setback is 19 feet when 40 is required. So there's substantial nonconformity with the front yard setback on that lot. And 31 Woodbridge Road, it's about 175 feet away from this lot. Again, the same zoning district. Rear yard setback of 15.2 when 60 is required. That's for the principal residence. And a variance was granted by this board, variance number DL0349 in May of 1999. It granted front yard relief from 40 feet to 15.7 feet, as noted. There is a garage on the structure that exists 10 feet from the rear yard line. Again, the rear yard requires a greater setback than the side yard. It granted relief from 10 feet to 5.4 feet for that garage. That garage on that lot sits basically directly on the line. And it did request some pyramid relief as well. Most convincing for this board is that the only affected neighbor, a gentleman by the name of Thomas Fassino, the neighbor to the north, has written a letter in support. Do you have a copy of that letter?
Was that in the submittals?
I believe it is, but if not, I can read it into the record.
Just one moment, let us take a look.
Sure. If you don't have it, we can submit it.
I don't remember seeing that.
Okay.
Fassino is the last name?
Is it a recent submittal?
I don't know if it's, I thought it was submitted some time
No,
ago.
we don't have one.
Okay,
Okay.
so then we will submit that
Okay.
during the written comment period, but I'll read it into the record. It has come to my attention that my neighbor, Ronald Duckstein, at 60 Lynn Avenue, has made application for variance relief for the addition of garage and other changes to his house and property. I am fully aware that the required setback is 20 feet and that the proposed project calls for relief to allow 10.6-foot setback. In addition, I understand the proposed calls for 560 some odd cubic feet of pyramid relief. Neither of these requests will have detrimental impact on my property, and when granted, the proposed project will be consistent with the character of the neighborhood, which is characterized by closely placed buildings and adjoining lots. Although I am the neighbor most impacted, I live immediately next door, I am fully supportive of the variance request and ask the board to grant the same.
Is there any kind of a hedge or, I see on the survey that there seems to be something, but it ends where the proposed,
There is vegetative screening there, and actually in his letter, he notes that the vegetative screening is there, the neighbor. If you want to require vegetative screening as a condition of this variance, we would have no objection to that.
okay, I would recommend that for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Another fairly modest application. Current relief, minimal. The setback relief, well, it isn't quite as small as a foot, 1 foot of reduced setback, but it's still, on the modest side from my perspective.
It seems to also back up to his parking lot, the neighbor's parking lot, so it's not like directly next to his
Like
home.
the main drive.
Yeah, right, so,
And really, for architectural consistency and for, making sense of the proposed dwelling, there's really nowhere else it could go. that
didn't look
extension.
like there would be, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, given the neighbors' consent to all of this, I have no objection.
But I would require the vegetative screening, for
Yes.
sure.
We will update this to include the vegetative screening, and we will submit that letter so you can have it for your records.
Okay. All right, well, there does not appear to be anyone in the audience in connection with the application. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? Was the application of Duckstein for property located at 60 Liv Avenue in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay. If not, I would move, we waiting for anything on this one, Candace? Okay. All right. Just referrals? Okay. All right, so I would move that we close this application, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be November 18th, and we will have a decision ready on our December 1st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Have a
Good
great
night,
evening.
all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, on the application, we're up to on the agenda, excuse me, we're up to number 9. And since it's already been heard, I'll just read the title. JMPE2 LLC, JMPE LLC, and John Razawell. And the tax map number is, the application, it's 911 through 917 on Ocean Road in Bridgehampton. Tax map numbers 900-105-2-54.4, 57.1, 55, and 57.2.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. As you may recall, I was before you at the last meeting, and there was a question as to whether or not SECR was adopted. Anthony and I reviewed the files, and it was in fact done with a negative declaration adopted in October of last year. I submitted a copy of the resolution via email to Candace, Katie, and Kathleen. I have an additional copy if needed, but that was the only pending comment. So with that, I would ask that we close the public record and proceed to decision, provided there are no remaining comments from the public or you.
Okay, very good. And I presume we received it, maybe it's in our written submission?
Yeah.
It's right
Okay.
there.
I'm happy to give a
Okay.
quick recap as well if you need it, but
Well, as long as there's, the secret was taken care of,
Yep.
that is, that we don't have to deal with it now.
Right. Yep.
That's pretty much what we wanted to
Great.
know.
Right.
Okay. Good. Any other questions, any other comments? Before I just want to see if there's anyone from the public. Is there anyone from the public who is waiting to be heard this evening in connection with the application of JMPE2 LLC? This is for property located at 911, 913, 915, and 917 Ocean Road in Bridgehampton. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Kevin? No on Zoom. Okay, thank you. All right, if not, Mike, it's yours.
Okay, we'll close this public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions until 12/2, and with a written decision on 12/15.
Second.
Wait, do you want it earlier than that?
Oh, did I get the wrong
Yes,
dates?
you
I'm
got the wrong
sorry.
dates. November 18th.
I apologize.
Well, we just do that as practice.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
let me say this again. We will close this public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions to 11/18 with a decision on 12/1.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Sorry, I went to my
Ms. Kerr?
other date.
Aye.
The other-
Chair votes aye. Okay.
Thank you all,
Thanks so
fellas.
much.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
too. Thank you, appreciate it.
We're going to the decision calendar now. I have one, you have a couple?
Yep, you want to go first?
All right, let me go first. This is a decision in the matter of the application of Danielle Russo and Alex Wright at 14 Bayview Road North, North Sea, New York, tax map number 900-28-1-41. The applicant requested relief for accessory rear yard setbacks from the required 10 feet to 7.1 feet to maintain an existing swimming pool constructed without benefit of a building permit on a non-conforming lot. The board finds that this variance request meets the five-part test set forth in Town Code and New York State Town Law as follows. No desirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor will a detriment to nearby properties be created by the granting of the area variances, since the requested variance of a 7.1-foot variance from the rear yard setback of 10 feet is minimal. The benefits sought by applicants cannot be achieved by some other method, given the non-conforming nature of the property and the sizable costs of relocating the pool to a conforming location. The requested relief is not substantial and has existed for over 20 years. And while the pool does not benefit from having a certificate of occupancy or compliance, the difficulty was not self-created by the applicants and in and of itself is not a legal basis to deny requests. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-6 General Regulations that references Town Code Section 330-11 Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory rear yard setback from the required 10 feet to 7.1 feet to maintain an existing swimming pool constructed without the benefit of a building permit on a non-conforming lot, as shown on the survey prepared by Michael W. Minto, LSPC, updated February 23rd, 2022, and incorporated herein. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to the conditions of such other permits as the applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for final approval.
Second.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Abstain.
Chair votes aye. I have a determination in the matter of the application of Timothy and Christina Palinko. This is property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 923-129. This application is for property located at 16 Island View Drive West, Sag Harbor. The applicant here requests a variance for a modest pyramid encroachment for a proposed second-story addition over a garage. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants applicant relief from Town Code 330-84D Pyramid Law for a total pyramid encroachment to the amount of 106 cubic feet on the east side of the property for a proposed second-story addition over a garage that is attached to an existing dwelling, as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Ben, surveyor, last dated March 23, 2022, and the plans and elevations prepared by Michael W. Behringer, dated March 1, 2022. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Abstain.
Chair votes aye. Last one I have is a decision on the application of Drazy's Farm LLC. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 967-1-6.6. This application is for property located at 674 Scuttle Hole Road, Watermill. The applicant requests variances to construct a 55 by 110-foot sunken tennis court. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief to the applicant from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed 55 by 110 sunken tennis court. 1, 33011, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from street, front yard setback of 60 feet where 90 feet is required. 2, 33076D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and 33083C yards to allow the proposed tennis court to be located within the required front yard for the principal building, as shown on the survey prepared by Meets and Bounds Surveying, last revised May 24th, 2022. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Abstain.
Chair votes aye.
I think that's it.
Motion to close?
Motion to close?
Yep.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.